Welcome back. You're still watching Finweek Money Matters. Now, government says it needs to invest 670 billion rand over the next 10 years to clear a water infrastructure backlog. Andile Ntingi is the CEO of getbiz.co.za, and he wrote this week's Finweek cover story on South Africa's looming water crisis. He joins me in studio alongside with DrJennifer Molwantwa. She's a research manager at the Water Research Commission, and we're also joined by Platt. He is the CEO at Accentuate, and we're going to be unpacking this topic a little bit further. Thank you for making the time to join us. Jennifer, let's start off with you and just get you to quantify the problem. How big is the water infrastructure backlog problem in South Africa? And then we'll come to Andile on his key takeaways from his article.
Look, I think the big thing about the backlog of infrastructure is something that really can be responded to by the department. But I will mention that in the National Development Plan, for example, we say that by the year 2030, there should be 100% access to clean water, 100% access to sanitation. So if you look at where we are currently, then you can look at where the backlog is. But also we are looking at the issue of power generation, for example, and water is central to that. And so where we are looking, for example, at the power stations that are being constructed, looking at Medupi, for example, there's currently infrastructure that's been rolled out there to make sure that there is water available in that area. Therefore, you can not really quantify it per se, but I think Andile would be at a better place to say.
The baton has been thrown. Let's talk about the key messaging in the cover story that you wanted to cover and the key takeaways from this particular crisis.
I think what is important to note about the water crisis is that although at the face of it, it looks like it's a crisis, but it's also a fantastic investment opportunity for people or investors who can come in and find ways of better resolving the problem. I mean, the government is planning to spend 670 billion over the next 10 years to fix the crisis. So lies in an opportunity for investors in the water sector and for people who are looking to build their professional careers in the industry. For instance, there's a shortage of professional engineers, civil engineers, artisans. It's another area where there's a big shortage of skills. If you look at, for instance, 20 or even 30 years ago, artisans were the backbone of
the human capital.
In fact, the engineering departments of municipalities, for instance, where the biggest challenge in terms of delivering water is at. So now we don't have enough artisans, we don't have enough engineers, partly because we haven't trained enough engineers.
So there wasn't a continuous investment in the human capital side of this problem. Maybe, Fred, let's bring you into this part of the equation. If the gap is a skills shortage, is there enough incentive for private sector players to step up to the plate and say, we've got the skill, we've got the capacity, we want a slice of the 670 billion rand?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the incentive needs to be understood, and I think we need further engagement between the private sector and government regarding this. We have an incredible plan presented by government. We're looking at 670 billion rands worth of spend that is needed, of which only about 300 billion is available, and 300 billion would have to be raised through alternative sources. In addition to that, we must understand that of the capital build, you're only looking at about 20% of that relating to capital expenditure. Maintenance and ongoing operations account for about 44% of the spend required.
Do you think the pie has been cut appropriately? Because the way you're sharing these numbers, it's almost as if there's a tension in terms of how that budget should be allocated.
Well, I think the important thing is to understand what we're trying to achieve. And in terms of the national plan, you're looking at the management of water, and that there's a whole debate around that. And there's a whole industry that needs to come into the treatment and the management of water. You then look at the distribution of water and the challenges that are faced through the actual distribution. And then I think the most important thing is the lack of maintenance and operation that has been taking place over the last in excess of 20 years, not only in the last 20, which results in this need. But I think that we need to get around a table as management, as industry and as government, and say, how do we address this? Because it is a problem that will impact on all of our lives.
Jennifer, does this also open up an opportunity for the institutions in the sense of the educational institutions, the FET colleges? I mean, Andile is speaking about artisans. Those are the skills we were supposed to be churning out from those institutions. Where's the gap?
Definitely, there is a need for skill development, human capital development. I think that has been left out. We're looking at, for example, you know, the Department of Water Affairs, Water and Sanitation, has got a program that's called the No Drop program. And that's looking at curbing all of the water that is being lost through leakages. Now, that is a function of local government. And if you're thinking what is there in place, you know, currently we can't say, but if you go, for example, to a mine, you may find that they actually have got systems or technologies that they put on a pipe, and they can be accurately be able to tell what is coming in, what is going out. Why is it that we are not being able to translate such technologies to local government? And also, do we have the necessary skills? Therefore, we need to, while we are training the people, at the WRC, we are really involved in research in these areas, you know, finding new technologies. And some of these are there, but we tend to also focus on technologies that have been tried and tested that come from overseas. And as a result, we are leaving back what has been an investment of the government in terms of fundamental research. Right. So we need to take that to the next step and be able to roll that out.
We've run out of time, so I just want a quick comment from you, Andile. I mean, in the article, you capture quite concisely the kind of impact this had, especially when we saw in the Gauteng region in September, when we saw that water crisis. If a lot of these suggestions that have come through are not taken as and prioritized, what do we stand to actually lose? Can we quantify the kind of impact this might have on the economy?
For instance, we've seen that if there's a problem around the delivery or supply of water, it tends to cause social instability. For instance, there's a prediction that the water around the world is so scarce that the next war or big conflict might be as a result of fighting over water. For instance, if you look at the Northwest last year, there was a death or deaths that were reported due to water cuts. So it's something that has got an impact of causing a huge problem for the country if it is not resolved.
On that note of making sure that we prevent water wars, that's where we're going to end it, and that's all we have time for this week's edition of Finweek Money Matters. A very big thank you to my guest, Andile Ntingi, CEO of getbiz.co.za, DrJennifer Molwantwa, Research Manager at the Water Research Commission, and Platt, CEO at Accentuate.